Instead of an idol or murti of Shiva, I have a Shivalinga, a symbol for Shiva. It has a column in the center, which represents Shiva's phallus, and a yoni, which represents the vagina of Shakti, the goddess. I give him offerings.
Dr. Sharma, thank you so much for meeting me today.
My pleasure.
I recently saw a show about Hinduism on CNN with Reza Aslan, and there were some things in it that confused me or brought up some questions, and I was wondering if you might be willing to address some of these questions I have.
Well, I'll do my best. Yes.
Okay. So the first thing I was wondering about is the use of the Shivalinga as a symbol of worship in Hinduism, and if you could explain a little bit about that.
Well, I think it was described as a phallic symbol.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, in the presentation. This is a bone of contention between the insiders and the outsiders in the study of Hinduism. The outsiders tend to look upon it as a phallic symbol, and the Hindus deny this. The best example of this is provided by Mahatma Gandhi himself, who writes somewhere that it was in a book by a Christian missionary that I learned for the first time that the Shivalinga had a phallic, I think he uses the word obscene, significance.
That's surprising to me to hear that Gandhi would have said that was the first time he learned
Yes.
that, because to an outsider it looks clearly phallic. And so would you say that it could have that significance as well?
To the average Hindu who worships the Shivalinga as a symbol of Shiva's presence, it has no phallic significance, at least now. Whether it had a phallic significance in the past is harder to answer. There are some representations of the Shivalinga which are anatomically accurate to the extent that one might regard them as representing the phallus. But most Hindu scholars think that this is because a cult of phallic worship has mistakenly identified the representation of Shiva in the form of a shivling with a phallus.
But then what is the significance of the Shivalinga to the Hindu?
Those Hindus who worship the Shivalinga look upon it as representing a pillar of light. And there's a story connected with this pillar of light. I think Reza Aslan mentions the Hindu Trinity.
That's right.
Of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. According to this account, there was once a competition among these gods as to who is the supreme one. And at that point, Lord Shiva produced a pillar of light and asked the other gods to find out its top and bottom, which they could not, which established the supremacy of Shiva. So this symbol represents that pillar of light.
But he doesn't just describe the phallic symbol. He also describes the yoni as representing a female anatomy. Is that also correct, or is that your understanding?
When the symbol is taken in this sense, then it is supposed to stand for the fact that all birth, or usually rather, birth is associated with sexual activity, which is symbolized by what we see. But in Hinduism, this stands not for just birth, but rebirth. The idea that the soul is trapped in a cycle of rebirths in an obsessive, compulsive way. And the goal of life is to free oneself from this entrapment and discover one's own true spiritual self. In such a context, bowing to the Shivalinga and what goes with it is a prayer to Lord Shiva to deliver us from this bondage involving endless rebirths. So you can say that whereas the initial point might have some sexual significance, the ultimate point of its symbolic significance takes it totally out of this world. I think this has not been hinted at all in the series you refer to.
Yeah, that wasn't the impression that I got when I was watching it. It just seemed like it stopped at the phallus.
Unfortunately, it reinforces a stereotype from which at least Hindu scholars have been trying to liberate the study of Hinduism for at least 2 centuries.
Can you give us more of an idea, of a sense of what that history is?
The history is the characterization of the Shivaling as a phallic symbol. When the ordinary Hindu does not look upon it like that at all, and when the philosophical Hindu looks at it in a way which totally transcends its phallic significance.